What is going on, everybody? My name is Austin NT, and my website's name is Institutional Hunt. I just wanted to quickly go over a disclaimer saying that trading's risky and that you never want to go beyond your own means. You never want to go beyond your own knowledge, financial resources, or anything else like that. Any opinions or trades that I intend to make doesn't mean you need to make them. Make your own decisions, make your own choices. That's what this channel is all about. It's about education and us kind of coming together and just, learning from each other, because I learn best whenever I have a group of people to work with. And, I'm just kind of hoping that, the same thing happens and, the audience grows as it does. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to go through everything, but I'm going to go ahead and post to Twitter real fast, let everybody know that I am up and smoking. Okay, there we go. That's much better. I feel much better. Go ahead and exit out of that here. Jacked up and good to go. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through our next day planning. Of course, we've already gone through our fundamental analysis. We already know kind of in general what's important to us and what's not, what we want to focus on and what we don't want to focus on. Knowing that information ahead of time, we can kind of make decisions based on that and go a little bit further. Right now, we've got the Australian dollar and Japanese yen cross pair. Of course, I am very bearish on, or I'm very bullish on the Japanese yen. And I'm actually slightly bullish on the Australian dollar. Reason why is just because I'm seeing a little bit of commodity uptick. The Baltic Dry Index is actually looking interesting. So, interested in that, I guess you could say, and kind of going from there. So the fact that I'm kind of bullish on both of these means that it's not the greatest currency pair for me to be trading. That being said, this area right here is a really pretty decent place to sell. My only issue with it is if you pull over here onto the hourly chart, there's not a lot of distance between that and then the weekly pivot point target. So there is some potential for running into heat pretty quickly. But this is actually starting to shape up and look like a pretty decent trade that I might take for a short side sell, seeing how I'm so much more bullish on the Japanese yen than I am for the Australian dollar. And if you're curious as to why I'm more bullish on the Japanese yen than the Australian dollar, that's actually pretty straightforward. The Japanese yen has failed in every attempt to weaken itself. You know, Japanese government just hasn't been able to do anything. They've got negative interest rates. Their quantitative easing is nothing short of ridiculous, and yet they still are unable to perform the action that they're intending to, which really tells me that the currency is going to get stronger before it can start to weaken again. So I definitely am interested in this particular trade right here. It's actually right around in a good area, so I might be taking that pretty soon. One thing to keep in mind, tomorrow, and this is just trading economics, the economic calendar, we do have durable goods, and then we have the consumer confidence out of Germany. Germany's massive economy, whenever it comes down to the Eurozone, and really it's, Germany and Spain are the big producers. If the consumer confidence is starting to go down in Germany, that's not a great indicator for the euro. Durable goods used to be more prevalent than it was, but now, I mean, it still kind of moves the market. Really, the thing I'm most interested in Fed Yellen testimony to see if she'll do anything. What that tells me, though, and what the news tells me, is that of the high impact stuff, the things that are 3 stars or red based events, I guess, these are the only ones that are big time market moving that could potentially have a serious effect on the market. And if those are the only ones that could potentially have a serious effect on the market, then that means everything else outside of the euro and the US dollar should trade a lot more technically. And that is actually where I prefer to trade if I have a choice. So these are going to be good if I can get in, real nice and early, and then maybe take a windfall if, Fed Yellen says something like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to hike rates in December. Then, yeah, if I'm in if I'm bullish on the United States dollar, then that would be good. But right now, I'm planning these. If I can find a good United States trade to open up at a good resistance level or support level that's going to be beneficial to me, I might take that in favor of the United States dollar, but I would want to do it against a weaker currency. So either way, this is the news that we're planning for tomorrow. And we will kind of go from there. Okay, so moving on, we're in here. This is a pretty decent trade, so I'm going to go ahead and just write down the opportunities, but because this one's actually right on point, so I'm just going to do AUD USD, or AUD Japanese yen, so, and I'll come back to that in a little while. Okay, so next time, AUD NZD. Now, these are the commodity currencies, and I'm actually more bullish on, like I said before, on the Australian dollar than the New Zealand dollar. So what I was hoping for, and you can see it right here, I put a little blue box in this area, and I was hoping for it to come back into this area so I could potentially take it north. But this area right here, I could see a commitment off this line, and that would be okay as well, just because that is a psych level. What I do want to see, though, and let me do this, template, item A, insert, indicators, pivot points. We want just regular old weekly pivot points on the hour chart, and we want monthly pivot points on the 4-hour chart. And I do it that way just because I think it's easier to see. If you watch some of my videos, I did a video that's very rudimentary on pivot points, and ooh, that's very interesting right there. Okay, so we're seeing this little commitment off of the monthly pivot line. It came into resistance here, which is not all that surprising, at the weekly the first weekly resistance line, so that's very interesting as well. So what I would like to see, let's put on, it is just above that line too, interesting, and got a commitment above that. Okay, that's very good. All right, so what would be the potential profit target that we're looking at for this one, on this one right here? Because this one might actually be a trade that we just go ahead and do, just because it's looking pretty interesting right now. Okay, so we've got 15 in this instance, and realistically speaking, if I want to make sure that I'm not wrong, you know, I can put it way the heck down here. But the commitment above this line that I'm seeing right here is nice. We've got a consolidation. I've got my moving averages start to split apart. I can't see any real fault with that one whatsoever. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Popping above that. Do we have a close on the 1 hour chart above the... We do. That's fascinating. Okay. So we'll go ahead and, you know, put in a little small order for this one. You know, you guys can never say that I don't trade live whenever it comes down to it. And I'm doing that because I'm mostly, right now I'm a little bit more neutral on the NZD, but I'm a little bit more bullish on the Australian dollar. I am concerned about the Australian dollar at the moment. The housing market in the Australian dollar, market at the moment, but overall, I really think that it's in a decent position. So I'll go ahead and put that in, and then we want to make sure that we're in a place where if we're wrong, we're wrong. So we want to come down to about, I'd say there. That's pretty fair. Okay, so that's below the pivot point. It's below the psych level that it's broken, closed above on the 1 hour chart right here. So we've got a pivot point, a psych level, and we have an actual confirmed multi-point resistance, which was actually a previous selling zone here. So this is a very, very good bounce, very good trade, old support, old resistance, new support. So I really like where this one's going and where it's aiming for. I don't want to go much further than that right there, though. So my target is going to be right about there. Okay. And that's what we're going to shoot for. And we're going to hope for the best on that trade. But basically, what we're looking for here, the next steps in this particular trade that I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for it to come above this level here and kind of find some support on that trade and that area. Once it finds some support in this area, I'm going to go ahead and move this to break even and just let it run for profit. Each time that we find support at one of these monthly levels, or even if we find support at the weekly levels, we'll go ahead and take it up from there. Otherwise, I think that's pretty good. I think that's in a good spot. So overall, you can't ask for more than that. You can't ask for, you know, more than a monthly pivot point and a major psych level all in the same place that it's consistently bounced off of. So, you know, you gotta take that type of trade whenever it comes down to it. It's skipping off the red line right now, and it's not touching the blue line, so we know that the market's moving pretty quick. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. This one is just fantastic, but also messy. I wasn't a part of this particular trade, but it just kept going down, 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 and that's because the Canadian dollar, they've been releasing news and fundamentals that they're going to be lower for longer, and it's just one of those things to ever, it doesn't look good for the Canadian dollar. If you listen to the actual BIS reports if you listen to the BIS reports for the actual bank inflation studies and everything else like that, that go through all the central banks and kind of, you know, talk about the global outlook. One of the banks that actually demonstrated indicators for financial crisis for the central bank being Canada, and with oil prices not doing well and everything else, which is their main export, that's not a great thing. So I'm still very, very much a bear on this particular currency pair, but statistically speaking, once it gets down to this area, you're going to start to see rejections and you're going to start to see pullbacks. I do not want to be a part of that, but I am interested in potentially taking it up later. So go ahead and move on. AUD. Now this one I actually have a trade plan in already. Waiting for it to kind of work out for me. Actually, may have, yeah, it came up to there, and then it sold off. So what I want to see is a kind of a rejection, and I wanted to see it come back up here a little bit. It did so on the 15-minute chart whenever it burst through and then kind of came up real fast and then went down. So it might already have done that. It might have had too much speed and just kept going. I would have wanted to see that, you know, maybe on a little bit longer of a time frame, but realistically, I probably should have taken that at the 15. I might not have been at my desk whenever that was going off. I had to run out for a little bit. So either way, that was the type of trade that I've been interested in taking. If I miss that trade entirely, it doesn't end up coming back. What I'd want to see is a bounce off of this area here and then to come back up. So I'd want to see it come down, come back up, and take it down here. I do want it to be a little bit rounder though, so right around in this area, wherever it's 46 even. So let's draw a line. Ooh, almost nailed it. Sniper. Alright. There we go. So I would want to see it break through this level, come back up, and kind of fill this little gap right here, and then I would maybe look at selling it down a little bit. Once again, I'm not crazy bullish on the Australian dollar, so I'm not too worried about it, but it is an opportunity and it is a potential trade. So Euro CAD, you know, obviously I am actually bearish on both these currencies, so this isn't a great currency pair for me to be trading or me to be interested in, really. But it is, yeah, no, we're just not even gonna, we're not even gonna. All right. So we have the euro and the Swiss franc on this particular trade here. I am always very concerned. You know, Swiss franc is such a risk-off currency, so a lot of people go into it whenever there's uncertainty. But I am so out on trying to go short or go with the Swiss franc right now, just for the main purpose that they actually, the Swiss franc maintains the right, basically, to intentionally manipulate the currency. They believe that their currency is still dramatically overvalued. So they like to, you know, they actually say in their monetary meetings and their policies saying, hey, we will manipulate the currency on purpose if we feel, or the foreign exchange market on purpose if we feel it's necessary. So I always am a little bit more concerned about that. I mean, I don't know if any of y'all remember this, you're around for this, but this little thing right here caused a lot of people problems. And by problems, I mean ruined their lives. So this type of stuff right here is things that they are willing to do. So I like to stay away from it if I can. There are good trades, I guess you could say, that come from it. And one thing about the Swiss franc trades is they're very, very technical. They work really well. They're very consistent. But you know, for a country that basically considers their currency to be overvalued pretty significantly and maintains the right to influence it, you really got to be careful about what positions you're taking with them. So regardless, though, I wouldn't be taking this particular currency pair anyway. I mean, I have taken trades on this one. This is the 5-minute chart, so I was wondering why that was. Like, for instance, let me see if I can find the one I did this morning. It was just a relatively quick one. 1 hour. There we go. Pull this over so you guys can see. Alright, so basically, I took a trade right around in this area here because there was a 1900 that it had just broken through. Yeah, I took it right there. There was the monthly pivot point that was right above it, so there was just so much resistance to it. There was the, you know, moving average, monthly pivot point, major psych level, and it just ran straight away down. And I mean, it wasn't worth much. It was only worth about 30 pips, but, you know, my risk wasn't all that much. It was like, you know, 10 on that particular trade. So, you know, it's all about managing the risk and, you know, picking your spots. So this one was worth it in that instance because I knew that there was just such a confluence that I should be able to get some benefit out of it. But, you know, understand the Swiss bank's mentality. Go read the meeting minutes. I highly recommend it because they do not care. Okay, Great British Pound, Euro. Once again, I'm bearish on both of these currencies as well. If you read the Commitment of Traders report for the GBP, it really, speaks volumes as far as I'm concerned that people are still interested in, getting rid of it, or getting rid of the Great British Pound or selling the Great British Pound. So I definitely recommend, looking into a potential sell. In fact, actually, that is kind of interesting right there, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Let's. Okay, so we establish our psych level. Psych level is really right in the middle of the weekly, the monthly right there. I can tell it's kind of rejecting off of it and then coming off a little bit. If it broke down below here to here, I think it would probably end up just getting into a channel for a little while, and I don't know if this would actually be a runner per se, and that is because you'll see later, Great British Pound is starting to run down into its old Brexit resistance lines, so it's not going to be one of those things to wherever everything's going to be hunky-dory, selling off all the time. I think we're about to see maybe a little bit of a retractment in the Great British Pound, just to, tap on some psych levels and everything else like that. And then I think it is possible that it will continue down, because if you look at the Bank of England, their most recent policy release states that it's basically they're basically, even though everything is better than expected in a lot of senses, they are still looking to cut rates pretty much unanimously. So this one here, once again, Japanese yen's just selling off faster than, you can really get to it in a lot of senses. Right here, it's at the monthly. It's in the monthly oversold zone, I guess you could say, which is pretty fast considering the month really. Yeah, it's gotten way too far, basically, in essence, and it's sold off really nicely. You've got this blue line here that it's bouncing off of, so it's predicting a double top or a double bottom. So I think what we'll end up seeing, and you can see I've got a little alert right here, so we're going to see a rejection off this line. I'm going to see it come up, maybe bounce a little bit here, and then we're going to see it come into this area. I'd be very interested in taking the trade once it gets into this area at the 114 even, somewhere around in there. I'd be very interested in selling that once it gets there. So we'll just have to wait for that to occur. My alerts are in. Nothing more I can do about that. Euro and ZD. Let's go ahead and move on. As you can see, I already have an actual trade in on this one. The reason why I have a trade in on this one is confluence like nobody's business. I mean, we've got a weekly pivot point, the monthly pivot point. We have a trend line that's running across here. It tried to break this trend line, came right back into the trend area, and then it came through, and it's starting to bounce up. So we're getting that real good confluence of potential opportunity, psych levels and everything else. You have your 200 moving average. So I'm very, very bearish on this particular instance, and I think that it will go down to this particular area. My plan so far is to let it break down and touch here, because once it touches here, it should find some resistance here. And then I'm going to move my stop to break even, let it finish its run out. So I already have my trade in for that one, so I'm not really doing anything else with that. But very, very good confluence of trades. This one I'm still bearish on this particular currency, but I don't really think that it's very smart to take any other trades on it right now, just because you've got your Brexit, you're at that low area where the Brexit kind of finished up, so you don't really want to push that too much further right now. After all the energy it's used getting all the way down here, I just don't see it being able to push straight on through. What I think is probably going to happen is we've got our first resistance area here, and then you get your second resistance area here. That I'm interested in, and I definitely think that it'll probably end up coming up to this area, because we've got our major resistance line that it tapped here, we've got our 70 73 even, or 1.73 even number. You've got your monthly pivot points, and then you've got your old established resistance lines. I think, and it's the 32.8. So I think that little confluence will come through. It'll come tap on this line, and then we're going to see it push down. But I do think it will push down through the actual Brexit lows. It's my opinion. Once again, you don't have to follow any of my opinions or anything else like that. I am not a tipper or anything. I just want to start up a community of people together so I can learn better, because I learn better whenever I interact with people. And instead of trying to go through forums or anything else like that, I said, I'm going to go be that guy. I'm going to be the guy that goes and does the thing, whatever that means. Anyway, so moving on. We are going to go ahead and go, because we have our plan for this one right now. We got our first alert here, so we're going to just wait for it. Great British Pound, Swiss franc. Nah, I'm not interested in this currency at all. I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Great British Pound, Japanese yen. Now this one's a volatile currency, just like the Japanese Great British Pound, Australian dollar. It's a very volatile currency, actually. I forgot, where did I make a trade on this particular one? Might have been back here, actually. Yeah, it was on this rejection right here, but I had a pullback here, but the currency itself, it just can reject. Oh, nope, it was right here. Yeah, it was right in this area is wherever I made the trade. But you got to be careful, because the swings on these are just so intense that they can knock you out pretty easily. So, I mean, this little teeny candle right here, from here to here, that little push-up's 50 pips. So you need to manage your risk a little bit better on these types of trades. Once again, my outlook is the same on the Great British Pound. I am very bearish, but I'm not bearish right now. I think it's probably going to go back. So go back up for a little bit. So I would be very interested in buying it somewhere around in this area up here, or selling it somewhere around in this area up here, because I am very bearish on the Great British Pound. I'm very bullish on the Japanese yen, so I think this one will be a very good currency pair to get into. And the last Great British Pound is Great British Pound NZD. You can see I've got a little sell zone right here, and I'd already kicked off that sell zone once. I am probably not going to take this particular trade, though, because we've got the blue line tapping here. It's forecasting a double top, or double bottom, and I don't really feel like the NZD, if I'm going to be taking a Great British Pound trade, it's not going to be a New Zealand dollar trade. It's going to be Australian dollar, it's going to be Japanese yen, or US dollar, because even though I'm kind of neutral on the United States dollar, but it's still maintaining more strength than like the euro or anything else like that. And because this market's entirely supply and demand, I still think that there's opportunity for United States dollar strength. So. And then NZD and Japanese yen. Is there anything interesting going on? Is there any? So, let's take a look. We've got our rejection level here, and I mean, it's always so fantastic whenever you see this, and it's so easy sometimes. You've got your psych level, you've got your monthly pivot, you've got this. It ran straight up, came within, 15 pips of this area, and then just rejected right off. It's also the support and resistance. Psych levels, monthly pivots, they work. That's just kind of how it is. But you see it kind of broke below this level, kind of found a little bit of resistance, and then found and tapped it again. I'm definitely bearish on this particular currency pair. I think that I'm looking for a short for sure, and I want to find a short here. I want it to be right in this area again, and I think we're going to see a little bit of retractment for that. So. And, I'm kind of in the same boat that I'm with the Japanese yen that I am with the Great British Pound. I am only inverted. Like, I believe that the Japanese yen has more strengthening to do, and I believe that the Great British Pound has more weakening to do, but I also believe that they've done a lot of their respective directional actions this, past few periods, I guess you could say. So it's going to need a little bit of recovery, and the market's just not going to be able to continue carrying on with that much intensity. So moving on. AUD Aussie. This currency I'm not actually all that interested in. There is opportunity in this one. In fact, actually, I was literally staring at it, and it came down to here, and I could have taken that trade up to there, but I didn't take it because, well, it's all about capital allocation, and realistically speaking, I just didn't want to allocate a percentage of my capital to something wherever it was a neutral, slightly bullish trade, as opposed to something that's bearish bullish, wherever, I'm getting the most bang for my buck and most potential for, moves. Euro USD. My trade for this right now is actually super straightforward. We've got our monthly pivot point, and then we've got our double zeros right here. I'm looking for a break of this, kind of similar to what we're seeing right here, and then I want to see a bounce off of that. And then I'm looking to potentially take it down to here. I really want to see if I can get into a Euro US dollar trade that's going to push all the way in. I think we're in a channel as it is right now, but I want to see it push all the way down. So I might have to surf for a little bit, and I might have to tread water for a little bit, but if I get into the trade itself, you could be leading on, a big channel break or something like that, which would be really, really cool. For anybody that hasn't heard the term surf or treading water or anything else like that, it really is like, I kind of treat trading a little bit like surfing, just because what you're doing is you're usually just waiting for a wave, and then you look for the wave, you look for the right time, you start swimming at the right time, you get up on your board, and then maybe the wave peters out. Okay, well, if you put your stop loss up, or, if you protected yourself appropriately, you didn't fall off the board, you didn't wipe out or anything, you just set back up, you swim back out, you tread water, and you wait for the opportunity again. That's what you do when you're really looking for those bigger opportunities that you want to run for a real long time. If you're just doing like a day trade or something like that, then, that might not be as interesting to you, but it's just one of those things where I definitely want to see a break through this area. I mean, you can see a lot of resistance in that spot, so this is a little messy with all these MAs, but either way, that's what I'd be probably most interested in. But if it does get up to this area into here, then I'm going to be looking for a potential short up there, because that would just be amazing. Because once you get up too high, let's pull this up on the daily chart, and do not mind this rubbish here. I wrote a expert advisor to correlate open and closes on, basically how often a Wednesday closes up, or how long a Monday closes up, or how long a Monday closes down, or how long a, whatever closes down, just to see if there's any statistical correlation. Sometimes I'll do that. One thing that I'm writing right now, and I'm going to clear this because this is just ugly. One thing that I'm actually writing right now is just to determine how often, Monday is a big candle. Like, what percentage of the time Monday is a larger day than this day, and how often is Wednesday, and how often is Thursday. Because that could be an interesting thing for a capital allocation. So, but templates, white MA, bam. Okay, so that is nice and clean. Now this area up here, okay, this whole area right up here, and I'm going to make this red, is really, it's not going to go there. So the higher up you get this into this area here, the better chance it's going to rocket down there. So right now, for instance, we've got actually, some buying resistance in this area off these monthly pivots. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to break down, find some support, find some resistance, and then maybe carry down a little bit. But if it carries up and it gets up into this area, I am super interested in finding a sell for that. So, I'll look for a psych level, I'll look for something that interests me, and then I'll take it down, and we'll take it down to Chinatown, and it will be fun. But either way, just keep in mind that area up there is really, I mean, there should be very, very large institutions with just gigantic auto sell orders just sitting there, because if it gets there, that's easy money for them. So either way, I just can't see it getting over that level. But if it does for any reason, then that means something has fundamentally changed in the market, and that we should all know why it did that. Either way, though, yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to USD Loonie. And this was a pair I've actually been looking at today. Made one trade on it, which was good, but I don't need you. Go away. Alright. This, actually, I'm going to pull up my 15 on this, and I'm going to zoom out, because I want to show you guys something that I am looking for. This right here is a glorious line that I actually might just end up buying it off of just because it's fantastic, but I do want to point out this. This is, well, what I'm about to demonstrate is a potential harmonic pattern. Now we've got a actual solid line here, but we have the serious line at 61.8. So you can interpret it as a Gartley, or you can interpret it as a crab pattern, or not a crab pattern, as a Gartley pattern, or as a crab pattern. It's just not a deep crab pattern. But either way, you're looking for an 88.6 or a 78.6 retractment. So I need to put those in my fib. They should be there. Let's go ahead and add 88.6. 88.6. Yeah, that's not how that works. Somewhere around in that area, and then there's 78.6, but you know, we'll know where that is. But basically, it's a harmonic pattern that I'm interested in. This trade right here, because it did this, it touched this blue line right here and kind of bounced off of it, that indicates to me that it was going to do a double top and it was going to reverse. So even though it came down and touched my buy area, again, which, you know, obviously would have been a decent little thing if I would have just taken it automatically and, you know, ran with it. I was thinking to myself, this right here, it's starting to reject off of this blue area, this bounce rejected off of it. I want to wait and see what this is going to do first before I go anywhere else, because once it starts touching this blue line, that's an indication that this particular directional move might bounce one more time up here and then it's going to come back. I still am bullish on this currency because the Canadian dollar is just going to burn for a little while. It's not going to be doing well. So I'm very much bullish on this currency, and what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for my pattern to validate. I want the currency to come back to here, which should be, you know, let's go ahead and put my 78.6 in. It's going to bother me. It's going to make my brain explode. And then there'll be brains all over the live stream, and you might laugh, actually, because you don't know me and you don't necessarily even like me. So that's fine, but boom. Okay, bam. Go ahead and add that in. Yeah, that actually is probably what's going to happen. We're going to see a Gartley pattern. It's going to have the 61.8, which is basically where that, you know, middle line comes down to. You've got the, I think that's probably a 61.8 right there, and then it's going to come down to the 786. So we should see a little bit of a flutter around here where it finds resistance at this old support. Then I want to see a commitment up here, and I actually probably won't take this trade, even if it, you know, is resisting off of this line, because there is so much going on in this area. There is, let's box it over. There's so much happening right there. You've got your pivot points, and then you've got your psych levels and everything else, and your weekly pivot point that it's bouncing off of. So there's just so much happening at that place that I wouldn't want to buy into it. I'd want to see it break above it, find a little, come rack for a little teeny pullback, and then I'd buy it. So my plan for this currency is I'm going to let it come down to here, into this area. I want to see it flutter around, come up, tap, and then go. This is where my entry is, right there. So once I see a good commit here, I'm going to put my alert here, and then I'm going to wait for it to come back up, and I'm going to take it, and it's going to be delicious. So we're getting towards the end of trades that I'm interested in. Not really focused on this one really at all. There's opportunity on both sides of this market. I think this is going to be one of those markets that just, has opportunity on both sides. If you look, kind of squint your eyes and turn your head, you see that a head and shoulders pattern really is trying to form. If this pisses off almost immediately off this monthly and breaks down and comes through here, you might see me sell that. Just because it's just right at there at the top, and it's further up, and it's bouncing off that monthly pivot, and then on the weekly chart, the pivot point is a weekly S2. So it's one of those things wherever there's opportunity in that area, and I wouldn't necessarily turn my nose up at it, but I would want to see some good rejections off of that. And man, I don't know. I might not take it because I don't really see any good natural psych levels that are right around that. That's the psych level that I'd be at, the 72. That's the psych level that I'd want it at. So I would actually need to see it break all that and then come back and kind of fill the gap. If it did that and then kind of started tapping around here and finding resistance, I'd sell it. I'd sell it. I'd make some pips. But gonna go ahead and finish up. We've got the pound once again. Hammered the pound in like 1 trillion times. Swiss franc. No. Not really interested in this particular currency either. And then the USD yen actually is interesting, so we're gonna have a chat about that. Once again, I said consistently I am long on the Japanese yen, which means I'm short Japanese yen pairs because Japanese yen is always the counter currency. But I feel like there's going to be a pretty decent retractment on these currencies. So I think that we're going to see a bounce up in this area, and let's try and see if I can get a line here. A potential forecast for where we would get a rejection. Because I'm definitely wanting to take something like this short, and I don't even know if I would use this to actually go short. I might use this forecast as an indication on whenever I should take another currency short. So for instance, because the US dollar or Japanese yen is so weighted and it's such a big deal, I might use that as my indication that okay, it's time to jump into Japanese, Great British Pound, Japanese yen, or something like that. So let us let us take a look. I'm going to put in my get my indicator out, and my pivot points on there. My pivot points should already be on there. I don't know why they're not on there, but yeah, it is fundamental, yo. Not having your pivot points. Psh. Psh. All right. Where's one? There we are. Yeah, we're gonna put my psych level at 1 even. Bam. Okay, so we got our psych level here. Let us also add indicators. We're going to add an indicator for, I don't know what accent that was, so I was just messing around. Sorry, guys. We're going to put the same line in. For this, I'm going to add an indicator. You can't see what I'm doing right now. I apologize. I'm on the other screen at the moment. Okay. So we're zoom in a little bit here. Pull it up here. Okay. So my plan as it stands right now, and you'll see it, it's pretty fantastic. That 101 line came up, touched it almost to the pip, and then ran away from it. So that to me is a very good indication of resistance line. That would be something that I'd be interested in maybe shorting it at. It shows me that there's resistance there as well, but there's also a monthly pivot in that area, and it's already found resistance across here. It was the previous selling area, and then it broke through that. So I mean, it has a lot of sentiment behind it as well. So I'd be interested to see if it goes through there. My thing here is we also have this overarching, real big trend line that could potentially shape what's going to happen as well. So what we could see, and I'm thinking that is probably going to end up what happens, realistically there's only two things that I can see that is going to occur. We're going to see a bounce to here, we're going to see a little bouncing into here, and we're going to see it break through here and then come up to this trend line, or I think we're going to start to see a range. We're going to see it bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, in between these two, and then ultimately it's going to get pressure from this overarching trend line as people start to see that that's tightening up. I think we'll probably see a snap above the trend line, and then we're going to see it come down. So I'm calling it out. That's very specific. If it turns out that I'm crazy wrong, you can come back and say nanny nanny boo boo, you're an idiot, but I think we're going to see a range between the 100 and the 101 until we get a breakthrough, just because for a big psych level like 100 even, you're going to need a real good consolidation, and you're also going to need real fundamentals to push it that far. So check it out, look at it. That's pretty much the last currency that I'm going to go through at the moment. This is something that I do every single day. I do this for my benefit, but I also do it for y'all's benefit as well. So if you have questions or anything like that, please let me know. I monitor the chat, so if I'm doing something and you're interested, let me know. Right now, I don't know if there's anybody in the chat, because it gives me a notification I didn't hear anything. But either way, if you have a question, you have a concern, you have something you'd like to add, if you disagree with me, if you think that this was the coolest thing ever, I mean, it doesn't matter. Type it in the chat, let me know. I want to improve what I'm doing. I don't just want to, create aimless content. So your opinion to me matters dramatically. But regardless, however you found this stream, however you found this next day plan, I sincerely appreciate your time. I sincerely appreciate, you stopping by, and I'm grateful. And if you need something, you have questions, you have an idea that you want to run past me, as long as you understand that I'm not a tip service, I'm not, giving you trades to take. I'm trying to, create a community of educated traders that, we can help each other and grow off of each other. And as long as you understand that, my advice is not law or anything else like that, and you need to make your own decisions for yourself, I would be happy to answer anything you send my way as fast as humanly possible. So, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you need anything. I'm also developing up an economic outlook that I'm going to be doing on a monthly basis. Make sure I will make sure and keep your eye out for that, because I'm going to be developing up a Patreon, and really the only reason I'm doing Patreon and not just creating a subscriptions service with a website is because I'm a content creator, so it also kind of seamlessly meshes into YouTube pretty well. But it's going to be super cheap to have a crazy detailed fundamental analysis. So once I get the fundamental analysis outlook for every major currency, which is, every currency basically you saw here today. So check that out. If you have any questions, let me know. Stream ran about an hour. I know that's a long time, but realistically speaking, you're planning your next day's trades. You're trying to make some money. That's the best way to do it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Put a comment below. And thank you very much once again for coming in. Yeah, really appreciate it. Super do. Alright, you guys have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow in the funny papers.